Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I decorated this super cute pull-apart cupcake wreath for Christmas. And if you want to see how I did this, then go ahead and keep on watching. Okay, so here I just went ahead and bought this pack of cake boards. They are 14 inches. And I was able to fit 24 cupcakes on this board. And these are the frostings and the food colorings that I'm using. And here I'm using Wilton tip 1M. And I'll be using this tip to create the rosettes on our cupcakes. So I've already placed my cupcakes where I want them to be. I want it half to be vanilla, the other half to be chocolate. And to make these flowers, it's very easy. You just press down on the cupcake, put pressure onto your piping bag, and then start going in swirls. And now this, you can make the swirls as big as you want or as small as you want. I did not cover my whole cupcake because I'm going to be doing several different little designs on my cupcake. So I just left the rosettes. And I promise this whole thing is so easy to make because I did use canned frosting, and I will link in the bottom the video of how I make my canned frosting. And the design of this is also very easy to recreate because we're just using very little tips. And I am only doing some cupcakes at a time because I will be leaving some spaces so I can put my pine cones and my gingerbread cookies in between the dents. That way they don't pop out too much because I want them to look like they're coming from the wreath and not just placed on the wreath, but you guys will see that later on in the video. I'm just gonna fast forward you guys so you can watch me do these rosettes. Now that I'm done with the first half of my wreath, I'm going to be starting my poinsettia flowers. And the tips I'm using, I'll go ahead and put on the screen. So here you're going to want to use this one with the open jaw facing upwards, because that's how we're going to create our petals for these red flowers. So you're just going to gently press down and pull, and you can make these as long or as short as you want. I went ahead and just did different sizes because the plants are different sizes. And these are easy to do because once you've done your first layer, you're just going to overlap your second layer in between the first layer that you did to create that lift effect. Now I'm going to be starting my second flower. Originally, I was going to make one huge poinsettia per cupcake, but I felt like that was going to overpower my whole wreath concept. So I just opted in for making smaller versions on a one cupcake. And now I'm repeating the process. You gently press down onto the cupcake, put pressure in your piping bag, and then as you're going up, gently release. That way you create that long petal. Now I'm going to speed up the video so you guys can watch me decorate the rest of these flowers. And I will link my frosting recipe hack down in the description box so you can see what type of frosting I'm using. And I do like it because it does hold up its shape without you having to make a whole buttercream from scratch. And you can always secure your cupcakes to the board just by piping some frosting at the bottom of each cupcake, if you know where each cupcake is going to go. But since I was doing this freestyle, I did not do that since I'm pulling apart each cupcake and designing each thing separately. Now that I'm done with my poinsettia cupcakes, I'm going to go ahead and just leave these aside while I go ahead and start our pinecone strawberries. Here I'm just getting my strawberry and putting in a toothpick so I'm able to hold it. And here I'm using the tip 81 from Sunnyside that I got at Hobby Lobby. And it's just like a little tip that's shaped kind of like a nail folded. And I promise you this looks hard, but it's actually very easy. So what we're going to do first is just start piping down our first layer. And you're going to go in between each layer after that. So see how I'm doing here? I'm doing one layer and then I'm going in between each other layer. And that's going to give us our pine cone effect. And of course, you do not have to use a strawberry. I use a strawberry because I didn't mind eating that with my cupcakes. But you can also just do cake pops or Oreo balls or whatever. It doesn't have to be a strawberry. And it's looking very similar to the pine cone right behind me on my tree. And when I did make this brown frosting, I did add a little bit extra meringue powder in it, so that way my brown can crust. So when it's time for me to handle it and put it on the cupcake, I won't completely mess up the shape of it. And for doing these type of tedious little piping, I do recommend filling up the frosting bag way less than what I did here. That way your hand won't have a hard time pressing out that pressure, because your hand will get tired over time. Now I'm going to speed up the rest of this video so you guys can see me pipe all the rest of the strawberries. The good thing about this particular tip is that you could make those shapes go fronter, backer, or more slanted. It's just going to depend on how you hold the piping bag. So here I was deciding that I did not want the big fat strawberry on top of my wreath, because I feel like it was going to overpower everything. So I did go ahead and just chop my strawberry in half. And I'm just going to be decorating the top halves of each strawberry. If you are going to be using strawberries like I did, I recommend dipping them in chocolate first after you slice it, because it will leak onto your cupcakes and it will make a big mess. I did not have to worry about that, because as soon as I was done taking my photos and stuff, my family did start eating the cupcakes, so I didn't really have to worry about that. And I did get this rich deep brown by using that red can frosting, and I went ahead and just added some brown food coloring and then a couple of drops of black. That way I was able to cancel out that red from the brown, which helped me achieve this super deep brown that was similar to a real pine cone. So once I'm done with one strawberry, I'm going to go ahead and put it aside to air dry. That way my frosting gets more crisp and firm to the touch. And it did not take me as long as you would think to frost up all these strawberries, because I originally was going to do that thing that everybody's doing with those almonds or with that cereal to make those strawberry pine cones, but I figured that was going to take me way longer to dip everything and then cover everything in chocolate. So I figured I'd just pipe it all out and it would be a lot faster. And now these are my pine cones all done, and I'm going to let them sit on the side to completely dry and firm up before we touch them. So now here I'm going to be decorating the rest of my wreath. I'm going to leave the tip I used on the screen. So basically here I'm just going to be making some leaves around my poinsettias. And it's the same process. Press down on the cupcake, put some pressure, and then slowly release. And the release is just going to depend on if you want a long petal or a shorter petal. And for leaves, you can always just do a straight leaf, like by pressing pressure and then pulling back out. Or doing little swiggles like how I'm doing to give ourselves that little extra texture. Now I'm going to speed up the video just a little so you guys can see me decorate the rest of these cupcakes. I think the red poinsettias ended up coming out really nice with the wreath that I made, because I really was debating between making the white or making both, and then I ended up just deciding to make the red. Christmas time is always the funnest time of the year for bakers, because there's so much creativity and so many things you can make into like an edible treat. And if you're a cake decorator or a baker, you know the struggle of wanting to do so much in so little time. And here you can really see how the difference between doing a straight one and just the swiggled one makes. In the leaves, it gives it a good texture. Let's say you just wanted a basic design, you can just easily do these cupcakes as individuals. And that looks like a cute little poinsettia wreath cupcake on its own. If you just leave it exactly how it is right now, like that, it looks really nice. Okay, now I'm about to be done. I'm just going to go ahead and pop it right back into my cupcake wreath. And now we're going to go ahead and start our next design on the cupcakes. And I'll leave the tip I use on the screen. This is kind of like a leaf tip, but a little bit thicker. So since I did want different texture on this cupcake wreath, I am using this tip to make some leaf petals on the edges of all my cupcakes on the outer rim. And this is super easy because we're just piping little, basically like the leaves we did before, but on the edges of all these rosettes. So you're just going to press down, release the pressure. And the length is just also going to depend on you, how much you want it to be popping out. I do recommend using this Wilton specific color of green because it is really nice, deep and rich in the color. And I felt like it really made the difference in how this wreath ended up looking. Okay, now that I'm about to be finished with the outside rim of my cupcakes, I'm going to be using my same tip to frost the inside gaps of my cupcakes. So here I'm just going to be making some long leaves, or let's say like lines or whatever, to fill up the inside of my wreath. And the reason I did this is because I did want the gaps, like I said in the beginning, so I can put in my pine cones and my gingerbread men. Here I'm just going to be going all around my rosettes, finishing off that line. And this is also going to help me have a dirt texture on this wreath to give us a more fuller looking cupcakes. And in particular, I did like how thick this thing is making it. Because you know how we have those gaps in between those cupcakes, specifically like right here, where you don't have to stuff nothing in between the cupcakes. You just lay like that flat line of buttercream on top, which helps us cover our gaps. This is how it's looking so far after we've covered everything. And now I'm going to be using these gingerbread cookies that I got from Walmart. They are in the holiday cookie section. And let me tell you guys, these are so good. They taste like kind of like graham crackers, but these are so good with milk. So I highly recommend. These were in the holiday candy aisle because the Walmart sell their own cookie version of these in the bakery section, but they did not have no white frosting like this. And these, I like them because they did have white little outlines, and I feel like they just match more with my theme. And here I'm just going to lay out all my cookies and decide how many I want and where I want them to go. Now I'm going to be bringing in my pine cones. Now that they've settled just a little bit, they're firm to the touch. Now I'm able to pick them up without breaking the shape of it. So here I'm going to lightly pull out my toothpick. And I'm going to go ahead and just place it onto my cupcake. Now here you can really see why I wanted that little indent in between my cupcakes. So I'm able to place all these bigger items in there. That way they're not popping out so much out of the wreath. And here, after I'm done placing all my pine cones where I want them to go, I am going to go ahead and finish piping out the rest of those little pine cones that we know Red is showing. Now I'm going to speed up the video a little bit so you guys can see me put the pine cones. I feel like this is what took me the longest, trying to decide where I wanted all these things to be placed. Now that I'm done moving my pine cones where I want them to sit, I'm going to go ahead and start piping in the rest of those petals and fixing any little cones that I did squish. And if I wanted to keep this more simpler on the design, I could have easily just stopped here because it looks so nice as is. But I went ahead and found these sprinkles at Big Lots, so I decided to use them on this wreath. I'm going to be using the ones at the way right corner, the little green leaves with the little balls, the holly berries. Now I am going to speed this up because it did take me a while to put all these little sprinkles on there. I need to buy myself those little tweezers to go ahead and make my life easier to put all those sprinkles and stuff on top. And I did keep my sprinkles to a minimum because I didn't want to overpower it with so many little things on top. And from the sprinkle pack, I'm also going to be using my little gingerbread mans, since my main theme is gingerbread man for this cupcake Christmas wreath. So over the middle of the poinsettias, I did think it would be a good idea to use these little white candy canes to put in between there to give it like a more festive look. And the reason I didn't use little golden sprinkle balls for the middle of the poinsettias was because I am going to be adding some peppermints to this wreath. and I feel like it would just match a lot more than the golden little balls. And of course, like always, if you do want to recreate something similar to this, you do not have to use strawberries or those cookies or even those sprinkles. You can go ahead and just make everything out of fondant, or if you have the chocolate molds, make those similar shapes. And that's it for this video, guys. Sadly, I did not record myself putting those peppermints on top, but they were just those candies that I got from Dollar Tree. And if you do have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comment section down below. This was so easy and super fun, and the good thing is you can divide this between a lot of people without having to make a cake, and it's so easy and inexpensive. So if you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the little subscribe button to get notified every single time I post a new video. And thank you guys for watching. And here I'm just going to add in all the pictures and videos of all the different times that this wreath could have been done, but then I kept adding more and more until I ended up with this final result of the peppermints.